All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem HaKakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson on some of the prophecies that we're waiting to see. And it's going to be a lesson on, we're waiting to see the destruction of Babylon the Great. So I'll say that again. It's going to be a lesson on prophecies that we're still waiting to happen, or we're still waiting for. And this is going to be a lesson on how we're waiting for Babylon the Great to be destroyed. All right, so I'm going to go into I'm going to go into some scriptures. I'm going to start with Jeremiah 51. So this is Jeremiah chapter 51 and I start at verse 7. Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that have made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. So what a sign of who Babylon the Great is, right? It would be a nation that has caused for every other nation to follow after their ways, right? And the obvious country that there is in the world that you can clearly see that does that is America, all right? Everybody in the world, maybe not so much now, but in the past, everybody in the world was always desiring to get the American dream. Everyone was always wanting to go on a holiday in America. Everyone was always trying to get a business deal. Like musicians would always try and get a business deal and would always think that they made it if they became big in America, right? They might have been big in the UK, for example, but then as soon as they got, if they couldn't make it in the UK, they never really thought that they was that big. They always thought it was a bigger achievement if they made it in America, man. And that's always been the way of everything. TV shows, people always thought that it was a bigger deal if a TV show got remade in America. For example, you had the TV show Top Boy over here in the UK, which this isn't for nothing to promote that, but the TV show Top Boy over here in the UK, right? It wasn't that popular. Well, it was popular over here in the UK, but people started giving it more recognition when the musician Drake started mentioning it, and then it got big and popular on Netflix, and then it became open to an American audience, and that's when they thought that they'd made it, once it became big over there. And a lot of musicians over here that wasn't able to make it big in America always didn't end up really thinking that they achieved much with their career, man. They always wanted to try and make it big in America. So America's clearly the sign that that Babylon the Great is America. Let me carry on reading verse 8. Babylon is suddenly fallen, destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, for a judgment is reached unto the heavens, and is lifted up unto the skies. And just remember that bit there where it says that the judgment is lifted up unto the heavens. And now when you go to Revelation, the 18th chapter, it also speaks about how Babylon the Great's judgments and how Babylon the Great's sins have reached unto the heavens, because it's talking about the same place. This is Revelation chapter 18 and verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel. And after these things I saw another angel. So look here, 1 second. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and cage to every unclean and hateful bird. And also take a note of how it's mentioning how Babylon the Great is going to be a place that pretty much not certain only types of weird animals that can live in rough habitats, like scavenger type animals, and animals that have got a highly acidic digestive system, and that can eat like crazy out of date food and rotten things and still be able to digest it, like the scavenger bird, right? Like lizard type animals and stuff like that. Verse 2 again. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the house of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And I'm gonna I'm gonna I want you to try and remember that, because in certain other parts that I'm gonna go to in the scriptures within the Old Testament, it also mentions about how a place called Babylon is going to receive these same things. Verse 3: For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and all the kings of, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So it's letting you know another sign who Babylon the Great is. It was going to be a country. It was going to be a country that was making other countries rich, right? Through them bringing their goods over to that country. And who accepts more imports than America? Who buys more goods around the world than America? America is a country that is full of luxury, man. Is full of luxury. All the most flashy things you will find in America. There's certain cities in America that are just designed for pleasure, like Las Vegas, and now over in America, Miami is becoming extremely popular. I saw some posts and things like that where it's like an average around like $3,000, around $3,000 for rent on average. So there obviously will be rents that you can get for lower or higher, obviously, but the average, meaning what most people are paying, is around like $3,000, man, which that's crazy. Like that's probably around like what, maybe £2,500, maybe 2,500 to £2,800 if you was to convert it into English money. Verse 4: And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God have remembered her iniquities. So that's also the same thing that it said in Jeremiah, right? It speaks about, because it's speaking about Babylon the Great from the Old Testament, man. It's mentioning it from back then. Let me read it again. Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 9. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reached unto heaven, and is lifted up to the sky. So it's speaking about the same place, right? Jeremiah 51 is speaking about the same place as Revelation, the 18th chapter. Let me carry on reading. Because America and Esau was proud and thought that every country was rocking with him, right? But every country's secretly been deceiving him. And even during NATO treaties and all of these different things, which I'm not an expert on these things, but I'm gonna just make this particular point. When Donald Trump was president, he was putting it on every other nation and like rebuking them because they wasn't giving their GDP. As I said, they wasn't giving the 2% requirement of their GDP to military defense, man, and they was just pretty much relying on America to do it, because ultimately they was trying to betray. They was betraying America, man, and they're really not rocking with America. They've all secretly just been using America and playing along until the time where they don't have to play along anymore, because they really know deep down that America is just a warmongering country, man. And really everyone in the world really wants peace to a certain degree, but Esau is the Americans of Esau, right? The American Edomite is the proudest one of all. And it mentions that in the scriptures that his look was more stout than his fellows, man. And that's talking about the American Edomite. Let me carry on reading. Verse 6. In fact, I'll go verse 5 again. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh have remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. And this is also quoting and referencing what it mentions in Isaiah the 47th chapter, because Isaiah 47 is also mentioning the destruction of America, and it's referring to America as the daughter of Babylon in that scripture, or in that chapter. Verse 7 again, how much she have glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. And that's what America thinks. They always make statements like we've got the greatest military, right? And they don't really think that anything can happen to them. And that's why it mentions in Isaiah the 47th chapter that they refer to it as a virgin, which I'm gonna go to, since I mentioned it twice now. Isaiah chapter 47 and verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. And that's what's going to be happening to America. Eventually, every country's going to wake up and realize that they was drinking Esau's wine, meaning Esau's philosophies and Esau's doctrines on the way how you're supposed to live in order to have success in life. And they're going to realize that didn't do nothing but destroy their countries. And it's going to anger them to the point where they're going to shoot fire at America. They're going to burn it with fire. Revelation chapter 18. In fact, let me read that as well. This is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and they shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. So the other nations have agreed with Esau because Yahweh's put it in their mind to agree. But that's causing them to be angry gradually. And it's going to eventually cause for them to burn burn America with fire. And that fire is going to be caused by ICBMs, man. America's going to be completely destroyed off the face of the earth. Now I'm going to read, let me carry on reading. This is Revelation chapter 18 and verse 7. How much hath she glorified herself and lived deliciously? So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is Yahweh who judgeth her. So America is going to be destroyed, man. And it refers to this place called Babylon several other times within the scriptures, man. And I'm gonna carry on reading through this first, but then I'm gonna go to the other places where it mentions a country, a place being destroyed completely. That's gonna be like Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's gonna be like a place that cannot be inhabited, cannot be a habitat for the human population. Let me carry on reading. Verse 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, because all these other countries are going to see America get destroyed, man. Even though they're going to be the people that cause it to happen, they're going to realize what damage they've actually did, because there's going to be a lot of things happening. It's going to be World War III during the time that these things are happening. And sometimes, like when in the world in general, as a natural thing, there's certain times where people become violent, right? And then they almost regret the violence that they've did. And these nations are going to regret destroying America, because they're going to realize that all the money that they used to make from America, they ain't going to be able to make it no more. They're going to destroy America because America's being wicked and being a warmongering country against the whole world. And it's causing problems with every single nation. And it's caused other nations to drink their wine and their philosophies and be bogged out, and it's destroyed the family structure and all of the normal different rules that every other country had. They're going to destroy America because of that. But then also all the money that they made from America, they're not going to be able to make that no more. And I'm going to read it. Verse 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. So the Babylon the Great is a country that's got great riches and great wealth. And that country is America. Although America's got all the debt that it's got, the life that a person lives in America on average is better than the life that a person lives anywhere else on average. That's why you'll have poor people in America that are obese. Whereas if you have some poor person in Nigeria, you'll be able to see their ribs. If you have some poor person in India or Pakistan, you'll be able to see their ribs when they're poor. They'll be living on like a garbage heap. But in America, they'll be living in like a three bedroom house or something like that when they're poor. They'll be overweight and have enough food to have a calorie deficit five to 1,000 calories higher than what they should. So like not a calorie deficit, a calorie surplus, 5 to 1,000 calories more than what they should be eating a day. Gradually gaining pound after pound because of all the extra food that they're eating that they don't need to be eating. Right? Verse 11, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. So that's the main reason people are going to be complaining that America's destroyed. It's not because they love America. It's because they was dealing with America to a certain degree because they was able to get rich from it. And let me read that, in fact. There's a scripture on that actual same topic. Let me read it. This is Sirach chapter, so look at 1 second. This is Sirach chapter 10 and verse 30. The poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. So people is only dealing with Esau, dealing with America, because of the riches that they was able to get from it. But when it comes time that Esau loses all these riches, because his main hobby is going to be destroyed, his main place of wealth, where all of his wealth was shown, is going to be destroyed, which is America, right? And then after the time of America getting destroyed, Yahweh Shai is going to show up. So they're not going to get to rebuild. They're not going to get to build the desolate places, right? Which, let me get that scripture, in fact. Now, I don't want to make this lesson go too long, but I'm a say the scriptures that need to be said, so that Lord will somebody can see this and understand. This is Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh have indignation forever. So they're not going to rebuild. And this is basically another way of saying, we would have, like what it said in Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, we would have healed Babylon, but it shall not be healed, because they've tried to rebuild it, they've tried to do certain things, but the sins of the place are too much, man. That place has been too much of a torment. That place has destroyed the Israelites, man. That place punished and did a whole bunch of cruelty to the Israelites, and the blood's been shed so much that it cannot be cleansed. The scriptures say that the land cannot be cleansed but by the blood of him that shed it. But America shed so much blood that the only way to cleanse that place, the only way to cleanse that is pretty much going to be a sacrifice of the whole nation, the whole country, and the whole landmass being completely destroyed off the face of the earth. That's the only way to cleanse and to balance out what that place has done to the Israelites. Now let me go back. This is Revelation chapter 18 and verse 11 again. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and of fine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of the most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. You can get the snazziest car in America. You can get the finest garms, some snazzy shoes, right, with gemstones on them and that, right? Some £1,000 distressed Balenciagas, torn up, ripped to shreds. But because Esau says it's worth something, people are going to pay $1,850 for them, and that's considered fashion, right? You can get the newest up-to-date cars, a Lamborghini truck, right, a G-Wagon, a Mercedes G-Wagon. You can get everything. Every export of all the best cars around the world is traveling to America in some way or some fashion. And it even says souls of men, because there's a whole bunch of human trafficking and all of that stuff that is funneled through America also, man. Funneled from all these other countries into America. In fact, that's the way how us, the Israelites, ended up in America, for the tribe of for the Southern Kingdom anyway. the other tribes went there and fled from the Assyrians and went there, and that's the place that's called so like how is it Asareth or Asaroth, Asareth. I think Astaroth is some evil spirit demon or something that he mentioned in the scriptures, but Asareth is the place that is mentioned in Second Ezra the 13th chapter, and that's regarding America, the land of America, which is also if I'm not mistaken called Ophir in the scriptures as well. I saw the apostles bring that out recently. Salakia, 1 second, let me go back to the lesson. Revelation chapter 18 and verse 14, and fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and good are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more. All because there's not gonna be nothing left in America to where you can try and say, oh, this is gonna be it's gonna be built up anymore. It's not gonna get the chance. Like, people are gonna see that. They're gonna see how badly it's gonna get destroyed, and they're gonna be crying, man. And every single Edomite is gonna be sad as well when they see that happens, because they're gonna realize that place is completely gone, man. It's not gonna be no evidence of the world that used to be there, right? All the Starbucks, all the Gucci stores, Chanel stores, Tiffany's, all the big amazing 100,000 attendance football stadiums, basketball stadiums, right? All the evidence of anything that Esau had over there is going to be completely destroyed. Let me read this scripture. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 1. Thus saith Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And that destroying wind is going to be, whenever you look and you see in movies, right, and you see nuclear missiles get set off in the movies, you always say a big gush of wind come after the initial explosion, right? That just destroys everything in its path, man. And part of that destroying wind is part of the vision that Jeremiah saw of the after effect of the explosion, man. How it's just gonna blow. The wind that's gonna be caused from the explosion is gonna just destroy every single thing in its path, man. It's gonna completely like turn that place into ashes, man. Like, there's several places in the scriptures where it mentions nuclear war, right? But the main place that's going to be destroyed from this nuclear war is America. Other places are still going to be able to be inhabited afterwards, but they're going to have to be rebuilded back up again. But America is going to be is going to be completely destroyed at the end of this thing. Verse 14 again. Revelation 18 and verse 14. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off, for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. So there's the proof again further that Babylon the Great was going to be a place that all these other countries had these things that it mentioned from Revelation 12, so like in Revelation 18 and 12, down to Revelation 18 and 14, right? That Babylon the Great was a place that was receiving these things from other countries, right? Babylon the Great was a place that received these things from other countries in the world. Verse 16, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and order company in ships and sailors and as many as were as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Because America's the big bully in the world, man. America's the country that when they tell people jump, those people jump, man. I remember there was a situation a while back where Donald Trump like roughed up some of the other countries' presidents. He just pushed past all of them and barged through, man, because he was like, well, my country's got the juice, so what are you gonna do, right? Because and having physical power over people makes you proud to where you think that nothing can happen to you, man. But ultimately, no country's invincible, man. Every single country can be destroyed, man. But Esau thought that he was invincible, and now he's gonna realize at the end of this thing that he's not, man. He's gonna realize when it's all said and done that you can't go around living like this and get away with it, man. There's a punishment for pride, right? This is Revelation chapter 18 and verse 19, and they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein all were made rich, that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour is she made desolate. So this is a sign I cut on all these other nations as well, because they ain't going to be complaining because people are getting burnt with flames. Their only complaint is going to be, damn, I can't make that money no more. My best customer's dead, pretty much. You know, that's what their complaint is going to be, that their best customer is no longer alive no more. It's not that people have lost their lives or lost their homes. It's going to be that they can't make money from it no more, because no one really likes America. And like I just read in Sirach chapter 10 and verse 30, the rich man is honored for his riches. Esau isn't liked because he's a good person. He's liked because people can make money with him. People actually really like us, the Israelites, more on average than they like Esau. But because they like their pockets, they fake the funk, man. But Jacob, sons of Jacob, are liked way more than Esau, man, on average. When they're doing the right thing, they're way more like Israelites, way more likable than an Edomite. Verse 20. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh have avenged her on you. So we ain't going to be crying when America gets destroyed, man. We ain't going to be crying no tears for that place. And then we just jump down to this scripture now. In fact, you know what? I'll read the whole thing. Verse 21. And the mighty angel took up a stone. Yeah, I had to read this one. At verse 21. And the mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall no more be found at all, because America is going to be completely destroyed. America's Babylon the Great. That place where oil was made rich, that had goods to sell. That's America. If you have goods, if you have the finer things in life available for sale, you can become rich by selling those things in America. That's a fact, right? That's just a fact. Verse 22, and the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and of trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman or whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee. So there's not going to be no architect that's going to say, you know what, I know that the buildings are a bit dilapidated. There's not going to be no Salakia, man. There's not going to be no architect that's going to say, okay, these buildings are a bit dilapidated, but I've been watching a few episodes of Grand Designs, and I think that with the right materials, we can rebuild this up. There's not going to be that. There's no one going to be there. There's not going to be no Americans playing American football saying blue 32 hot, running around stiff-arming people in the face, grabbing their helmet and pulling them to the ground and hitting touchdowns. That's not going to be in America no more. The country's going to be completely destroyed, man. Completely. Because that place is being punished for what they did to the Israelites. Let me carry on reading. Of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And Esau did deceive everyone, man. You got Neuralink, they're pushing this MOTB, they're pushing this whole alphabet agenda. They're really ultimately the ones that's pushing to where people are trying to transplant wombs in people and all of this stuff, man. They're the ones that pushed all these women's rights stuff. They're the ones that pushed all this freakism, all this human to animal stuff. They pushed all of that on people, man, and people saw Esau do it, and they thought that it was it was a good doctrine to eat, and followed after him. And Esau has been to blame for several people being completely destroyed and being bogged out in the world. Verse 24. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth, because every single nation had been destroyed by Esau, man. But it's not about them. This is America's not being destroyed because of them. It's being destroyed because of the Israelites. Verse 24 again. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints. So America's been destroying prophets, man. America's been destroying Israelites. It's been destroying them, man. It's been weakening the saints. It's been weakening the Israelites, and the blood of prophets is going to be found in America, man. Men that are prophets have died in America, and men that are prophets are going to. The scriptures mention that in Revelation 20:4, Esau's going to come after them, and some men are going to have to go through that, man. But Yahweh's going to be with them when they go through it anyway, and after their bodies perished anyway, they're going to be seeing Yahweh Shai, just like how Stephen did. When Stephen was dying, he didn't even care, because he saw Yahweh Shai. He saw the heavens opened up, the scriptures say. I'm just gonna quote it, roughly paraphrase it, but the scriptures say that the heavens opened up and he saw them. He saw Yahweh Shai, man. Now that I've read all of that, I'm gonna go to I'm just gonna quickly jump in to some other places where it mentions the place being destroyed. That's gonna not be inhabited again. This is Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. Now let me just quickly jump to the point. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 19. In fact, verse 18. And their bow shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did Yahweh overthrow Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire. And Isaiah chapter 13 is also referring to America, which is Babylon the Great. Verse 20. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. So it's not talking about ancient Babylon. It's talking about a new Babylon, right? Which is America, Babylon the Great. And it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there, but wild beasts of the desert shall lie in there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there, and the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. So these scriptures here, let me just highlight them. These scriptures here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, verse 19, verse 20, verse 21, and verse 22 are referring to exactly the same thing, and are using similar language to what it mentions in Revelation 18 and 2, right? Revelation chapter 18 and verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice. In fact, with verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And that's the same thing what it was mentioning in Isaiah the 13th chapter. And there's also, I believe it's Jeremiah 49, and it mentions this, and it actually refers to the Edomites when it mentions it, if I'm not mistaken. It's either 49 or 50. Maybe it's 50 then. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. Let me just scroll up quickly to prove that it refers to Esau within this. I'm pretty sure it mentioned Edom. Maybe it's 51 that it mentions Edom, but I'm going to read anyway that it mentions the destruction similar to Sodom and Gomorrah, and then I'll try and find the next place. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 39. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, which is what it mentioned in Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 19 to 22, I believe it was. Verse 19, pretty much to the end of the chapter. Verse 39 again. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there. Let me highlight that. Shall dwell there, and the owl shall dwell therein, and it shall no more be inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, as Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof. Saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing that he mentions as what's going to happen to Babylon the Great, man, because he referred to Babylon the Great. He referred to America's destruction from the Old Testament. It's been a long planned thing, and people always try and make out, right, especially these Christians, man. They always try and make out like the people of ancient times are not the same people as the times that we're living in now, right? If you was to have a time machine and go back in time and see what the ancient Edomites looked like, they'd be looking like the people that you see in charge of America right now. That's who you'd see. And if you was to see what the ancient Israelites looked like, if you had a time machine and go back into the into Israel during the time of King Solomon, you would see, and then you was to go back into the present time, those people that was in the kingdom of Solomon, right, would be the same people that you're seeing in America being called Negroes, would be the same people that you're seeing in America being called Mexicans, would be the same people that you're seeing in America being called Native American Indians, or calling or calling them wrongly Red Indians, man. When they're not red, they're brown, and they're Israelites. Salaki, let me go and jump as well to another place that it mentions the same destruction again. And Lord, will I remember I'll try and find the scripture where it actually refers to Esau. I'll try and find the actual scripture that refers to Esau as well, if I can't find this scripture. Salakia. It mentions the same destruction. It mentions the same thing where it refers to Sodom and Gomorrah. Again, in this scripture, if I'm not mistaken. Salakia. If I don't end up finding it, then I'll try and post it in the description box, Lord will, if I remember. Unless I misquoted the scripture and it was actually the 50th verse. Yeah, here we go. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse... No, that's not the scripture. No, that's not it. All right, Salakia. I'm gonna, you know what, yeah? I'm gonna end the lesson there. I'm just gonna read one more scripture on how America is gonna be destroyed, and then I'm gonna try and find them scriptures that I was looking for, because that's annoying me that I couldn't find that. Salakia. All right. You know what? I'm gonna read this. Let me read it from Isaiah 13 again. Because America is going to be completely destroyed off the face of the earth, and America is Babylon the Great. This is Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans, excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there. And owls shall dwell there, and the satyrs shall dance there, and wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. So America's gonna be completely destroyed, man, and that's one of the prophecies that we're waiting on. And I'm gonna end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. Shalom.